Okay, and it seems that we are live with our next in the series of Livespace webinars today, bringing experts and covering hot topics from around the world for sales teams and sales managers. While I see we have the people joining and I can see the attendees list is popping up. As always, while we fill the first couple of minutes to every webinar we have, please let us know in the chat option. Please test this technology. Let us know if you can hear us okay, if you can see us. Let us know where you're joining us from. That will always give us a little bit of an insight. But yeah, very, very happy and excited today that we are here to talk all about the future of CRM with AI. That topic we all heard about, but I think there's so many variations of what do we do with it? How can it benefit our sales teams and our overall business? And while you're all getting comfortable with your coffees and teas, whether or not it's morning or evening where you're joining it from, I think it's the perfect time for me to say hello to our amazing guest, Carlo. Carlo, thank you so much for joining us today. Let me know, can you hear me and see me okay?
I can hear and see you very well. Thanks a lot for having us. Pleasure to be here, and hi to everybody in the stream. Super happy to cover your questions here today.
Perfect. Carlo, I mean, again, first of all, yeah, we can't help but say thanks so much for joining us. I think you're that phenomenal guest that we normally think about these webinars based on first what's the topic we want to talk about, and then who can bring the knowledge about it. And then there's also those kind of people and brands like TLDV where we're like, let's just get them on to talk about anything. And today we've got the best of both worlds, because we really want to know more about where we think we should be with sales teams, sales departments, how AI is influencing that. And I think for the people who have been living under a rock, who don't know, Carlo is joining us as co-founder of TLDV, which is as of today your naming is AI note taker solution. I'm wondering if that's changed over the years, but Carlo, if LinkedIn is accurate as well, I think you're celebrating five years since co-founding the business. Is that right?
It's about 5 years now officially running the company. Definitely, we had like some pivots in before, and we started as something slightly different. But yeah, it's 5 years now on TLDV.
All right, well, congratulations on that. I think anyone that's worked in tech startups knows that 5 years is a long time, and however long
it feels like one.
It lasted in your head before then. So, as people are joining us, I'm gonna ask you to please definitely introduce yourself and TLDV in the future and do a better job than I do. But what I also wanted to address here is that yes, today we're going to talk about sales and AI, but my favorite thing to do is to try to address the pain that we are going to be talking about today. And one of the things that I think your team have talked about, and we've talked about at Livespace as well, which is that basically we're looking at the fact that right now sales individuals can be losing around 25 hours every single month through manual note taking, data entry into the CRM. After that point, we've got a statistic which is astounding that should make every sales leader lose a bit of sleep every night, which is that we are looking at the fact that now maybe up to 41% of sales efficiency is lost through this process. So for anyone that's got a sales team that is missing quota by just 5%, 10%, 15%, this is exactly where you could be pointing your optimizations and looking at where really tools can and services can help you. So with that in mind, Carlo, yeah, I'd love you to tell a little bit about, for those people who haven't been introduced yet to TLDV, hopefully they have. We know you have a great following and it's an enjoyable journey to follow. Tell us a little bit about TLDV and, how does it connect to that problem of sales efficiency these days?
Sure. Super happy to share more on this one. Maybe as a short introduction from my side, I'm Carlo, as you said, co-founder of TLDV, running it since 5 years now. As you mentioned before, I'm mostly in charge of everything related to customer-facing roles like sales, customer success, also customer support, and then a fair chunk of product as well, but more actually delivering the insights, which will also be a pattern in the conversation here today. We are an AI meeting note taker to summarize meetings. That's the most simple use case, but then actually to automate workflows based on this one, and also gain customer insights or insights across large amount of meetings overall. In the sales use case, this is definitely all about customer insights, sales reps use insights, feature requests, pain points, whatever you can learn about your customers to close more business. This is super roughly about the company itself. So happy to dive deeper into this one. Which topic would you like to dive in directly right now?
Yeah, I've got one. So one thing I will remind the audience: we have a lovely tool here at the bottom, which is a questions tab. You're going to see it in the bottom right hand corner. Please leave your questions for Carlo. We're going to cover them towards the end of the session. I think my first question I can ask before we jump into the hot topics, which is, do you remember, like, was that the problem you were solving all those years ago when you started? Do you remember what kind of triggered that experience of like, okay, I think the market needs that?
Slightly different, I would say. We've been always huge advocates of remote work. I mean, since 2018, I've always been working remotely. And we just said, okay, like it sounds like a bet for the future. It's going to happen sooner or later. So why not build software for remote work? So initially, the biggest goal was to make people spend less time in meetings and also communicate across time zones, mainly asynchronously. So we're building a tool stack and a video conferencing solution for asynchronous video communication, basically. Then COVID happened and remote work exploded. We have been lucky in that sense, I do have to say. And then we just learned, okay, like there are a couple of use cases which are super dominant. One is, of course, documenting overall meetings, and then especially sales calls, gaining customer insights, doing sales coaching, managing sales organizations. This was by far the strongest use case that most of our users followed. And then step by step, added more AI and automation on the process. In the beginning, we started with manual note-taking and annotations during the call, actually. Which then was done fully automatically, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's when I think I went through the same journey with your branding as we used it, which was originally I think someone from the company was like, oh, we need to use this tool. It's going to make our internal meetings more effective. And then suddenly the sales team were like, wait, whoa, we could do this. We need this process right now because
That's exactly what happened. I mean, who has the most meetons?
We're having 8, 9, 10 calls a day at least, and this is what we need. So I think that makes a ton of sense. Now, I mean, I've got a mini agenda here that I want to make sure we cover to get the most value for everyone here today. And I think the first topic I'd like to ask you about, which is that you highlighted, which is process automation, right? I mean, this makes sense. I mean, we want our sales reps, our sales team selling. And one of the core value propositions you seem to have, and obviously you're delivering with this, it is to help companies just remove some of those unnecessary manual tasks. I mean, where is that to now? And have you got any kind of, where would you recommend a sales team member or manager go if they're into your system first? What's the best way for them to set up that benefit, and how does it look over maybe a period of weeks and months?
Yeah, I mean, if we probably like start one moment earlier, like I always call them the 3 sins of sales reps. Unfortunately, it is not taking notes and not listening closely enough. This is the first one. The second one is not updating the CRM correctly, because all of us just like, no, it's a huge pain. It doesn't feel like a big benefit to do it right now. But in the future, or throughout long deal cycles, you then realize, okay, there's gold in there. So that's the second sin. And then the third one is simply not following up fast enough. It's so easy, especially when you have 8 calls a day, to just say, let's follow up tomorrow. And then tomorrow you just start your workday, something happens, and then suddenly the follow-up goes to the afternoon or so. And then it's way too late. So I believe those are 3 very simple and tangible areas where AI can really help a lot to automate such processes, or simply make it easier with AI augmentation, basically. So that's roughly the context where I would base everything. Since we started as a meeting recorder and a note taker, so that's exactly taking the first case. You can just focus on your customer call, basically. You don't need to take any notes anymore. I think everybody is winning from it. The customer gets more attention. People can listen way more closely and read a little bit in between the line, dig in between, okay, like what's really the underlying question or the why behind it. And then automatically update this in the CRM. This is the biggest bit. And then, of course, since you have everything fully documented, you can also very easily follow up within moments, basically.
Yeah, I did ironically, which is helping me today a lot. I did a workshop last week for a sales team, and I came up with this kind of mentality that, in sales right now, trust is built, but it can be lost in a moment. So I had this as an experience even myself recently, where I had a sales call with a rep, and I feel like this is the ultimate sin, where at the end of the call, they asked me to summarize the meeting as the lead. And they said, okay, so can you just summarize what you've said today in an email? Which for me, ironically, even though I sympathize with sales reps, I've been in sales for 15 years. As a lead, I felt, hey, listen, I don't think that's my role here. But I think it's just because, like you said, sales team members, they are overwhelmed. They're trying not to get caught up in the data entry side, but there are some sins of either not doing it at all.
Yeah.
And I also talked about this one, which I think is phenomenal. And I think a lot of sales reps hopefully will nod their head when they hear this one, which is you've got a follow-up call or something scheduled for that day, and you are running through your email history trying to find out what you said the last time. I mean, your solution, your service seems to really be like that, the thing that completely replaces that process, and not only does that, but with true context, not just a few notes in the CRM, but with actual context behind it.
Yeah, I would say, like, when we talk about the application of AI or impact of AI in the sales space, we should always consider two personas, where I believe the value is actually there. In many other AI use cases, it's still to be done, or like it's still visionary, but there's quite graspable. First of all, is the sales leaders, and then also the sales reps. For the sales reps, I mean, actually for both, like, certain information simply has to be logged in the CRM. It starts with the basics, like action items, pain points of customers, making sure that this is fully logged. Then it comes to probably slightly more complex part. Certain organizations have very complex sales frameworks, basically, where you need to uncover very specific information throughout a deal, ideally in the first conversation. And this needs to be fully documented as well. If this is not documented, then it is simply impossible for sales leaders to really gain insights on how a sales org is really running and how the fundamentals are doing. Do we finish every call really with action items? Yes or not? If not, then this is a huge flag. Or many organizations want to enable that, or want to make sure that every call finishes actually with another call being booked. This is something that you can very easily track with AI, basically. Then, of course, do we follow through on those action items? And do we actually collect the key information that we are actually looking for? This is absolutely key for sales managers. And then sales reps, I mean, we're simply not spending enough time talking, selling, and really listening to customers. And to be fair, it is a very stressful profession. I mean, we need to hit quotas. There's so much going on. Competition is stronger than ever. But deal velocity really matters, and giving customers the feeling that you're really listening really matters a lot as well. So this is where actually AI can have a very tangible impact directly on businesses.
No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And what I want to do just at this moment, while we've got, I think everyone's nice and settled in the room, but we've got a small poll. I would love to find out from our audience if you're already engaging AI in your sales process, in your CRM. So I'm going to ask Maciej from our team to trigger that lovely pop-up on the system here, which is great. And I think one of the things...
my vote is unfair. It was heavily biased.
I think that people should follow your trend here. But I think the other thing as well, we've talked about this on a more fundamental level, and I think some of the other challenges that I see in sales right now, which are really, really important, which is any sales leader who has reps in the same company who are delivering different levels of goals. So some are achieving 100% quota, someone's on 110, but someone out there is on a 60. But they're selling they have the same training, the same product to sell, the same lead potential. And I see so many sales managers, and what they've had to do is they've had to rely on hiring and firing. When actually, like you said, it's the fact that just one of them isn't qualifying questions at the beginning, or they're not asking those follow-up questions at the end. Or where I see a huge value here, and I'm acting like a fanboy today because I truly am in your system, which is this. I believe that your solution can also show sales leaders what the high-performing reps are doing more of. Yeah, there's patterns probably in what those, even if it's not something that's in the sales playbook or the training manual. I think there's that real ability to learn what is actually closing deals versus what is not.
Yeah, there are multiple different ways that on like how data could be leveraged with AI and across large data sets. One is purely quantitative, one is also qualitative. You can first of all track, okay, like are we actually following our sales processes, yes or not? For example, if we follow a MEDDIC framework or if we follow a band framework, okay, like in how many of our calls do we actually tackle like all of the points of MEDDIC, like metrics, economic buyer, pain points, etc., etc. If this number is too low, then this is clearly an indicator, okay, we need to further improve. And we can give the rep very specific feedback on this one. Very soon, this can for sure be automated. So sales managers don't need to do the scoring anymore themselves and like giving the feedback. But if it's simple data sets or simple basic questions like a framework adoption, this can be done in a fully automated way. Actually also helping reps to know, okay, this is what I can focus on. It's actually super easy to adapt. The other thing is, oh, sorry, you want to say something?
No, yeah. I mean, I'm one thing that springs to mind that because I think what some companies have done to try to both quality check and learn on the processes, that's probably a technology that's been around a little bit longer, which was obviously call recording and then supervisors listening into calls. Do you see your solution is something that complements that? You think that you could help replace that part of the sales management process? How do you feel about like, how do you complement or challenge good old fashioned call recording?
Regardless of like TLDV as a solution or like AI overall, when you just look at a recording, like a recording is essentially a black box. Nobody has 1 hour time or 45 minutes or 30 minutes even to really go deep on a call and see, okay, how did they actually do? Like we can only spot check. And even this spot checking takes a lot of time. So nobody's really happy about it. Sales managers spend way too much time on it. And actually it also leads sales reps sometimes to get like biased or unfair feedback. Maybe it's this one spot check, or it is, maybe there wasn't even a real spot check and something was a little bit misunderstood or so. So this can frustrate, I would say, both sides equally. And having a more fair system here in place where you can, first of all, automate this one, give the feedback directly. And then you always have that human interaction on top where you can then say, okay, either as a sales rep, you can say, okay, I don't believe like that this score was sufficient, or as a manager, you can then go in and you can have a conversation based on this one. I do believe that there lies a huge productivity benefit on here because it's just taking too much time to go through every call step by step by step by step. And then every call is individual as well. So having a more classified system on here definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and one of the other objections, again, when I did the workshop, and when I've talked to various sales reps and teams as well, I think there's such that contradiction on the market right now, and I love these statistics, even though I know that probably everyone's got their different benchmark here, which is that 80% of sales are made between the 5th and the 12th contact, right? So they're basically saying that follow-up is the key, and that basically 48% of sales reps don't follow up at all after the first contact. And when I question sales reps about why do they think this is, it's normally because they're like, we don't know what to say on that contact 4, contact 5, contact 6. And when you break it down, it's because they don't have notes from what was said before. They haven't got that context. They haven't got that ability to know what was discussed, what's worth repeating, revalidating, etc. So I think that's a big pandemic overall. Now, because we roughly talked about the CRM a little bit. Do you find that when teams are implementing your tool, Do you still have that little bit of pushback from sales reps in the beginning? Is this something that you help sales managers with normally? Because sales reps, like you said, I remember being sales. We sometimes we're a little bit temperamental. We're not always tech friendly. We're a little bit worried about. We're thinking too much about the oversight and not enough about the benefit. Like, is this something? What would be your advice to a sales manager who wants to implement this solution into their teams? Should they expect a little bit of pushback, or is this way different than those like kind of CRM implementations?
Yeah, I would say like the obvious elephant in the room, especially for call recording software, is this surveillance aspect or monitoring aspect. I mean, it's not a pleasant feeling for anyone if it is applied for just like a mechanism of pure control versus a mechanism of enablement. I think this one definitely needs to be addressed. We, for ourselves, I can only speak for us, we actually have a very strong bottom-up movement. So people start using us within, it's mostly sales reps who start using us first for the productivity benefits, and then we go up within the organization. So from our case, I would say this isn't the biggest problem, but it needs to be addressed. Like, you just need to make sure that everybody is benefiting from this one, I do have to say. Certain things are just made easier. You can follow up way faster. You can just get your information like together way quicker. Sometimes you have, like you said, like 9 hours of meetings straight away. After that, everybody is brain dead. It's impossible to remember everything. So then being able to go to the system and just say like, okay, what does the customer care most about? Why does the customer care most about it? And I'm really typing in those super generic questions because I feel it's more accurate actually. Like, the system understands like, okay, they care actually about those pain points and those things that they want to achieve. Here's the reason why. Ask for the competitors if this is part of your playbook. We always ask for it because it's learning material. And then just make sure that all of your action items are being logged. And this just helps so much. And usually just reading 5 bullet points about a summary in a script, this is enough information to trigger your memory and then see, okay, fully remember everything that they talk about, basically.
So I think we've already crossed that threshold, because I think that, it's important for the audience to know. Yeah, we obviously you covered in the beginning like that there is a very, very core benefit of the tool and of AI to sales, which is removing that data entry to making sure that all those notes are considered. And as you just talked about now, when we zoom out one step out past that data entry, I know there's a lot of benefits from your tool and AI in general about both insights, but also scalability of operations. Like, what do you feel like the key next levels, other than, okay, I didn't have to write those notes anymore, they're already there. Your tool and AI now are now able to suggest the key talking points. They're able to summarize. What are those next core benefits that will make sales teams stand out?
Yeah, I do believe one of the core factors is the accumulated insights that you gather as a sales organization, or also as a product organization, because let's face it, we're in such a product-led way, especially in SaaS. When you're in software businesses, everything kind of circles around the product. So the insights that you're collecting from customers are priceless. They're simply gold, basically. So the true power, we are convinced, really lies in making all of those insights really accessible. I mean, companies are sitting on a huge chunk of gold basically there, but they can't really dig into it. So I do believe that here many advantages are to be found. Across all calls, what are the feature requests that customers are looking for? What are the objections that they usually face in order to see, okay, A, how are we responding to those objections? And then B, is there something that we can do to counteract those objections in the very first place? This is definitely a key point on here as well. And then also, what's the most mentioned competitor, for example? So if you can list those kind of like reports across all of the meetings that you had in this quarter, this really empowers you to create buyer enablement materials that really makes a difference and is really way more tailored to what you had before. The other thing is that you can also influence product with actually solid data and not only anecdotes or anecdata, basically. It's
amazing. I'm just thinking that, those market research companies, agencies out now, right, they need to be careful because the shift is changing. So what are some of those outside sales stakeholders that you'd commonly see taking advantage of this information?
Yeah, I'll definitely say product is a huge one overall. There are two kind of risks of like when sales is interacting with product. Either sales is right with the feature request and everybody's like really asking for it, but product for some reason does not really trust them or believe it, and then it's not being implemented. The other risk is, and this is also a bad one, we're all humans. We are like eligible of the recency bias and similar ones. So just because we had heard a feature request like 3 times in the past 2 weeks, it doesn't mean it's the most important one. But what's the issue is, if then product actually listens to sales, builds it, and then nobody is using it, then sales is losing all of that credibility as well. So this is, again, one of those points where I believe AI can really have a benefit and strong impact on product organizations, gathering all of those information from sales, helping sales to become more credible within the product organization as well, send small moments, small clips of certain feature requests, also compile them. I mean, all of that is doable. You can just say, list me all feature requests for a Livespace CRM integration, for example. And then you list it all up. You can stitch those clips together, send it to product, and then here's the proof.
Now, I mean, again, and this is where this has so many layers, and I think it's quite rare that sometimes sales will enable a tool that actually they then stretch out across the organization, especially like you said in a SaaS and startup. And we talked about 25 hours a month possibly being lost to data entry. As much as I think cross-department communication is beneficial, I know that our sales team, even in my organizations, are some of the most sought-after opinions. So when we are making new marketing text, when we're thinking about what webinars to run, when we're thinking about what features to deliver, we're grabbing sales. So, I mean, this 25 hours a month of data entry isn't even counting the hours of internal request for knowledge, when actually your tool makes that available to everybody on demand.
Yeah, I mean, all kinds of departments actually depend on sales information, not solely as a source, but as one of the important sources. Marketing, as you said, it for marketing materials, product for obvious reasons, but then also customer success, because you first talk to a salesperson, then it's handed over to a customer success rep. This rep needs to have like the full track record of the customer going on.
And the other thing here, because these are springing to mind, the other thing as well is that, again, I've seen it so much that a product team will ask sales for advice on what features the customers are asking for. And my honest experience with this is that, and I hope, again, sales reps sales managers in the chat prove me wrong. Sales reps are so influenced by the last request they got. The last call that they lost, the last deal they lost that they didn't have that feature. So even as sales reps, even as myself being a sales rep, it's so hard to have perspective because they are influenced by time. So that last deal, that was a big deal, asked for that feature. So when product team asks you for a feature request, they're going to say, I want that one. When actually, if you looked at the last 50 encounters with 50 customers, that one might be 4th, 5th, 6th down the list. So your AI and your solution is also becoming more of a more impartial person, like you said, trusting the sales team, trusting that they are asking for the true thing that matters. I think that's super important, and I think that can help build trust in those departments as well. Carlo, what's your opinion on what about the lead side of this whole story? Are you experiencing that leads want to get the recordings? Are leads interested in getting the summaries as well, or does this tend to be very much a sales side of the communication?
I think it depends a little bit on the type of companies. First of all, I'm crazy biased in here because I'm talking to customers who want to purchase our tool exactly for this case. If it's larger deals or like more enterprise sales, we definitely hear this coming up very often because there's so much being discussed and there are like multiple calls where you are in this purchasing process. There for sure. In smaller fast-paced sales, I see it a little bit less, but it's for us, it's a great driver, basically. I can't deny this one.
Yeah, I personally think that
where it is very helpful is when you are actually onboarding customers. So making sure that, okay, you have a customer, they want to onboard 300 users to the system. it's impossible to have onboarding sessions with all of them. But what you can do is you can maybe have like 3 onboarding sessions with different time zones or so. But then you can have everything fully documented as well, and everybody can access to this one. This goes again in the direction of buyer enablement or customer enablement, of course, later in the process. But it's an important part of like retaining customers as well, making sure, okay, did they receive all of the information that they're looking for?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I just see these extended usages. It must have been really difficult as a brand to kind of keep narrow and stay on kind of meeting management, because there's so many use cases and benefits of the AI. Now, one of the things I'm skipping the order here, but because it's really coming to mind now, which is you mentioned that AI is going to play a part in also helping us manage our leads, potentially even with the scoring, with the order, the prioritization, knowing that, you know, we open our CRMs on a Wednesday and AI is going to be the tool that tells us this is the lead to talk to. Is that where we already are? Is that coming soon? Where are we with the kind of lead management side of AI and sales, in your opinion?
I think we're very close to this one, to be honest. The first one that is very easy actually is we all have insanely strong product metrics. Most of the SaaS companies do collect quite some considerable amount of insights across, like, okay, how are people using it? Then you can combine this with other data from LinkedIn or whatever lead enrichment data to see, okay, we just have 5 users from this account, but we could see this account actually has 500 employees or whatever. Their sales team has X size. They're being super engaged. This is one of the buyers from within there. There, I do believe a lot of stuff will happen to make it very easy to identify those kind of users, and then potentially also make the outreach easier. I don't think that the outreach will happen purely automatic in specific cases, because you do want to personalize something sometimes, because again, you need to stand out. But I do think AI will also make it sincerely easier to reach out to those people. Simply for writer's block, you know. Sometimes you're in front of a contact and you just know, okay, I need to write to them right now, but I don't know what to write exactly. Absolutely. There's a tool called Room AI on tools like Common Room or so, and they just like give you a short prompt, like give me a 3-sentence like intro, and like what should I write down to get in touch with them, and it's quite easy to get in touch.
Yeah, I'm a little bit critical of those messages lately, where it's like I'm checking in. I'm circling back, and I think that there is value to be given, but I'm very sympathetic to salespeople again. Like, for leads, they want to feel like the most important lead that day, but we all know that that's probably communication 20, 30, 40 of the day, email 15, 20, 30. So I think, but again, I also think that salespeople move so fast that they are just not realizing the problem that they are causing for themselves in a week, in a month, in 3 months from now, because they are moving fast today. They are thinking about the target for that that month, that quarter, and they're not able to think that far ahead. And I think I will tell now, Carlo, I don't know if you've had to answer this or not, but even though I like to think about our salespeople, we are quite confident people normally by default. But what do you find? Are you engaging in the conversation of the fact that, you know, will AI is AI going to ever replace the rep? Should a rep feel insecure? And maybe I can couple that in with what can sales reps and sales leaders do today to make themselves AI ready and AI connected, rather than vulnerable to AI in terms of their positions?
I would say the biggest risk here is, you know, like in the beginning of the ChatGPT hype, the most common phrase was AI is not going to replace you, but humans who use it will replace you. It was kind of like misused in the influencer scene, I do have to say, but it has some truth to it. I do not believe that AI will completely replace salespeople. I'm quite confident about this one, because ultimately we are humans and we are irrational beings, and we like to buy from people whom we like. So it's an emotional process in there as well. Sometimes so many products, they're so comparable Which one do you choose? Maybe the one that has the friendlier UI, the one that speaks to you more, or the one where you simply had the better experience with the salespeople, basically. And I do believe that this is something where AI will not build a solution. What it might help is just like being far more efficient. But what happens when a sales rep is far more efficient? A sales rep makes more money for the company can grow faster and then has more resources to get more of those efficient sales reps, basically. So I don't believe that this will happen when you're a strong salesperson.
Yeah, and I think that salesperson with AI enablement knowledge, that a person who knows how to use AI to scale, that's the key to kind of job security.
Plus, there's also this case where, for example, email outbounding, cold outbound becomes incredibly difficult because of tools like Clay right now. On the one side, it's so easy because you can send out like masses of emails, quite good ones actually, but it also results in inboxes being insanely full. So what many companies are doing right now is they're going back to phone cold calling, which seemed like a relic of the past, but that has this renaissance right now because people know at least, okay, it's a human I'm talking to. So I do believe the human connection will stay important in here.
Now, Carlo, I'm old enough to remember, sadly. I remember the time when, you would have a startup or you'd be building your business, and even, a CRM was not top of your shopping list. You'd probably stumble through with your first few hundred leads in an Excel or a Google Doc. I think the time has changed now, and I think CRM goes right up there with one of the first purchases that a company would make.
I do think so.
When you look at tools like TLDV and AI in general, are they something that companies should really start thinking about utilizing from day one? Because I think I'm influenced because I already see the mindset here. But how maybe you can even talk about some of your customer cases. How early are people switching to AI assistance in sales? Is it something from day one? Is it something from the first sales rep that they hire? When should companies be thinking about implementing these tools?
Fully biased on this one here because we also used our software in the beginning, or the first versions of the software, in order to build our company, basically. One of those, when it comes to startups, the very first thing that you do is product research and then founder-led sales, of course. But product research is the single most important part. And then there's this weird transition where product research actually turns into sales because you need to validate it somehow as well. So you need to make sure, do they pay money or so? But the one thing to analyze product research is via call recordings, via transcripts, making sure that you gather all of this information and to try to be as scientific or unbiased as possible on the information that you're collecting. So I do believe it starts quite early. Also, when it's just a single sales rep working in a company, those calls will be recorded because, again, they're so important insights for the product team as well. And if it's not the founder also wants to make sure, okay, like, are we actually like talking to our customers how I would like to talk to the customers, for example?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I'm sadly biased as well because I think most founders that I talk to, they talk about those first 100 calls, those first 100 leads being so valuable to the founder because it basically shapes the product, the business, the messaging, the storytelling. Why would you not want that stored and analyzed and kept in the most perfect way possible as you could, rather than notes and scribbles and bits and bobs? So I think I can understand why it would be there. I can also understand the huge value of kind of rep one doing this. One thing I would ask, so because my mindset, and I've usually interacted with sales teams of like being the solo salesperson up to 10. What are some of the big cases here? Do you see teams with 100 reps using the tool, 1,000 reps? Like, does it just the more scale, the more value? How far does this go? What kind of case studies have you seen of the usage?
Yeah. I'll personally say that there's no limit because this information that you're collecting is really priceless. Either for making the deals, then you need to record it, and then every sales rep is basically on its own or within the sales team to make a deal happen when it's like large enterprise sales, and you have, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sales calls for one single deal, basically, or even more. The other thing is when it's a truly product-driven organization, it would be stupid not to leverage the information basically that you're collecting from customers on there.
Makes sense, totally. I mean,
and the latest point is, sooner or later, you always like, you have heard this feature request so much or so you know it's coming, but then you go multi-product, or something happens in the market, or the competitor comes up with something new, and then suddenly you hear about this the whole time. So you constantly need to be learning.
Yeah, I mean, I preach this a lot, but I think some of the companies I see struggle the most are the companies that are pivoting or moving the slowest. So, companies that had a problem that they planned to solve 2 years ago, and they're still trying to solve that problem today, but the problem changed for the leads, for the ICP. I've worked in the recruitment space, and 2 years ago the problem was not enough candidates. Now it's too many. But if you're not changing your value proposition, if you're not analyzing the calls, what the leads and customers are saying, being late to that learning, late to that pivot can really cost you. I mean, in my opinion, at least. So I think there should be not only there's a huge positive of using AI and your tool, there should be a really big fear of not doing, to be honest, in today's age when things move so fast. So, Carlo, I think we did a really nice full cycle. Is there something that I didn't ask? Is there a point that that you think would be great to add in there? What are there any other benefits or anything? I mean, what I'm going to ask you is, if people are kind of bought in to the idea of your tool or AI in general to their sales process, I would love to ask you, like, what is your advice to them, especially as bottom up? So if you're a rep here and you want to try it, is it something that they should just plug in and go for it? Should they do a little bit of preparation for this? Should they, what's the best way for someone to go and start taking advantage of AI in their sales process?
It depends a little bit on the organization, of course. If it's a very strict organization, then tooling can be a difficult thing. If it's a modern organization, then I'll probably just go for starting it and just trying it, because most of the applications that are built, or how we build TLDV, is just try to be super, super user friendly for single users, and that you don't need to read a construction manual to get going, basically. Some tools might take a little bit more effort to get the full potential out of it, like Clay, for example. But I also ultimately believe that experimentation is the single best way to start on here.
Perfect. I've got a question from our audience.
And I would say also smaller companies definitely have a big advantage on here, because there's not so much to manage. You can just layer on top AI agents with Fin on Intercom, for example, or you can layer on top a sales analytics and everything, and then you grow with it, basically. So.
Yeah, I think agility is actually a superpower here, right? Because again, I mean, if you're in a public sector company, something like that, it's going to be really you do have to go and get some permissions probably from certain layers of the department. But Carlo, I've got some questions from the audience, if you don't mind.
Sure.
One of them is great, because one of the questions I did ask you before is how can a salesperson feel comfortable with AI? But I've got a question here from Callum from the other side of the fence, which is, do you think AI SDRs will be damaging for business? So those companies that decide not to take the human AI blend but go all AI, how do you feel about that?
I think it depends a little bit on the type of company. When you're a Canva and you're just looking to get every single person on earth a customer, and it's single users or smaller teams, basically, then I do believe that it can help actually quite a bit, because you can just make the sales process so easily. You can give all of the information, and it's very scalable. So I definitely see a ton of value on there. If you are a tool where the core purpose of your tool is really to get as many users as possible within one single organization, and it takes some effort from the company as well, or if there is something, if you're accessing sensitive data, like meeting recordings, for an example, then I do believe that a human must go in there. And sometimes it's just for building the trust. Again, people buy from people whom they like. So I don't think sorry, Callum, that there's like a true yes or no answer. I think for very scaled businesses, very fast-paced sales circuses or self-serve, I think it makes a lot of sense. For human touch, I think it will stay a blend. But the initial outreach, why not? I mean,
sure.
What are salespeople doing right now is they're working super automated anyways before AI came into the game. Sequencing, everything happened, automated messages. In the beginning, we bombarded inboxes, then we bombarded LinkedIn profiles, and then SDR agents will find some other way, basically.
Yeah, the freedom of approach has always been limited for a number of years, right? With this kind of approach.
That's it.
I've got a nice question from Wojtek, which is interesting, and I will sympathise with that. Let me pop the question up on the page. But I think I've experienced this a little bit as well, which is you do have, you get your notes from a tool from who's on your meeting, but you're then suddenly looking at 3 or 4 pages of data and you're not sure what to do. We're already probably at the stage now where it's that combination of both the collecting all the data, but then also having AI help you manage it. Would that? Yeah. What's your thoughts on that one?
It might sound a little bit contradicting, but what I like to do is just like to start easy first. Start with the most tangible things that really help you to make a deal faster. Basically, just asking the transcript about like, okay, what do they care most about? Why? What are the competitors? What do I need to do, basically? What could then be done is easily create action items out of those action items automatically in HubSpot, basically. But then if you have full automated sequences that are having, I don't know, like 10, 15, 20 steps or so, and they all depend on this first input that you're making, and then after that, like this whole mechanism is triggered, this can be difficult if the input is not 100% accurate. And one of the common things that can happen is, for example, when you have an action item in a call, sometimes you discuss it twice or so, and then you have it listed twice in there. And then you create suddenly 2 action items and they create 2 workflows also. This needs to be calibrated a little bit. It can be easily done, but just like do it step by step, and then you can get there along the way.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I've got our final question before we start to do a recap from Marek, which is, I think, a question definitely for your level of expertise, which is, how do you power your tool, basically?
Yeah, we use multiple different models simply for the sake of like always making sure that we have the best possible model and our infrastructure is quite adaptive on here. We are one official Anthropic launch partner, make great experiences with them. But we're also testing out other European solutions, and basically this is constantly adapting. But Anthropic is our main one right now.
Okay, perfect. So, Carlo, what I would like to ask is, I mean, I've got kind of two points for you, because I think definitely the outcome for today is we've covered quite clearly a lot of the core benefits of both your tool and AI for sales teams and organizations. What should people do if they want to try your tool? And then what should people do if they want to learn more about Sales in AI from you, from yourself, from your team? I know that you've got literally legendary status, social media awareness right now. My team are asking you to say hi and so on. So I think you're well aware. But
that's amazing, Gia. Thanks so much.
First of all, what should people do if they want to try your system? Where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, easiest way is to go to TLDV.io. You can try the tool for free. Quite extensive freemium plan. So there, it's very easy to set up. If you have specific questions, reach out to me, Carlo@TLDV.io. Email is the best. Tried LinkedIn, but email is my fastest source of communication. Super happy to answer any kinds of questions. Happy to help. And yeah.
Perfect. Makes sense. And for the people who joined today who are already Livespace users, I know that we're very, very proud of our recent integration with your tool. So I know that that's now working really well together. So those live notes for anyone who's using Livespace CRM, you can plug those meeting notes straight into the CRM now. So that's something that I can highly recommend. I'm sure you're going to hear about that in follow-up emails from us at Livespace. But Carlo, what I would like to say, thank you so much. I think this is that perfect kind of thing that I really hope we can get you back in maybe 3 or 4 months, where people have now got all excited about using the tool. I also think that probably the space is moving so quickly. I'll be super excited to hear what the trends are from yourself and your customers. But other than that, I'd only like to thank you so much for your advice. I think you've certainly settled my nerves on what AI and it means for the sales team. And I think that we didn't even need to prove it. As soon as you told me that it's bottom up, that's normally the biggest problem that I've had as a sales manager, is getting the team to kind of engage it and interact with it. So the fact that you've got the reps going in first and convincing their managers to scale is a fantastic billboard for your tool. So fantastic, great to hear. Lots of best of luck with that growth, and we'll be following your journey as well at Livespace. Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it. Amazing work that you're doing as well in Livespace. Super cool to see a hot Polish company coming up in there. I do have to say, Polish customers are growing so fast for us right now. So something seems to be going on in Poland. And as I said it before, let's stay connected. And to everybody in the audience, whenever you have questions, let me know. Super happy to help via email.
Perfect. Go and try TLDV. To everyone that's listening, Carlo, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for giving us your valuable time.
Amazing.
We'll see you
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye.
See you all.